ayahuasca, that it can go either way. Some people, we've had some patients that have gone and done it in a very controlled setting, and they come back and they are euphoric, but then there's no lasting like ahas.
Yeah.
So maybe it's who guides you through it.
That, and now that I work with spirit in this way, I understand, just like with anything, it doesn't matter if it's CBD or the all the keto and the our souls are they're individual. Our energy bodies are there's only one like it. There's only one soul, one of us. And so not everything's going to work. You need to find some recipe that works. But for me, because I've only in my work, I've probably done 700 sessions now. I think Spirit's only told 3 of them about ayahuasca.
Interesting. So it's just like when we put people on detox programs, or we do a lot of diet variation and fasting. Everybody's path is different. And it all comes down to that basic principle that the body's miraculous.
Yeah.
And it has an incredible ability to heal
itself.
And so all you're doing is removing interference. And so we come over here and we remove toxic interference, but then somebody like you removes, what would you say, like a spiritual interference?
No. So crazy enough, I can, by Spirit taught, like step by step, I can actually see the energy body. I can see dehydration. I can see the meridians. I've been taught acupuncture when I know nothing about it. This is step by step, so I'm bottom lining it. But, I know, and I can see when people take steroids for inflammation or an autoimmune, it's a horrible idea.
Yeah.
Because you swell, you might bring down the external swelling, but it pushes inward. The swelling still occurs, except it starts pushing down on your organs, and everything's red. It's inflamed and upset.
I believe that.
Yeah, it's a horrible. I wait to talk about that until it's like every single person I know that gets thrown on steroids that ends up in here with me or on the phone, because I can see on Skype or Zoom or whatever. It dehydrates.
Interesting. I believe it. Again, if I come back to this idea around interference, when you put a chemical into the body, you're not healing it. Now the body has to deal with the chemical you just put in it. So it may temporarily make a symptom feel better, but you long-term have yourself a problem.
Yeah. So, and it just taxes something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what's so fascinating and the truth is that, so with all that said, so I can see density. I can see stagnation first, which anxiety creates stagnation pretty quick, because when we're firing off like this, we're not flowing. And we're light bodies, we're energy bodies. First and foremost, we're energy bodies. Our physical, and this is what I know for sure, our physical bodies are like a hologram of our energy body, because the energy body houses our soul comes with that, and our physical body houses both, right?
Interesting.
So when you everybody with autoimmune has anxiety. I've not met one person where it could be low level for your whole life eventually, because it creates a level of stagnation in your etheric body that we can't see, but the stagnation and then you put on emotional wounds, and then you and then you take in like what's happening on the planet right now, and you bring that, and then that stagnation, along with the emotional wounds that are left unhealed, turns to density. But we can't see this happening, right? So once it turns to density and then it's left there long enough, then it duplicates into the physical body. Yeah, interesting. So there's a lot of chances to clear that with the things you do, with the thing, like everyone on that summit had an amazing tool
Yep.
for people if they sought it out.
And I still believe it all comes back to this principle that we are miraculous, and everybody's tool is just taking it and removing the interference to the miracle. So sometimes you have to use one tool to remove that interference, and sometimes you got to find like 100 tools. And that's why I think it's so important that people are open to work like what you're doing, because sometimes you take all the physical, chemical stuff off, and you're like, okay, we got to now work on the emotional. We got to work on the spiritual. Like, we've got to undo that.
Well, it's like the opposite from what I understand, because, well, first I wanted to say something, because then I wanted to go on to that. You asked me a question a few minutes ago, but a great analogy for people is like, if you think, so this is what anxiety looks like to me. And it starts up here. It doesn't start in the feet. It's always up here, which is why I always send light through, and I calm. That's the first thing I have to do with every single person. Otherwise, everything's doing this, and I can't see. I know it sounds crazy, but it's literally like I tune in, and I first need. It's like muddy water. And you can liken it to, you know, like if you're going to buy a new house and you walk in and the realtor flicks on the light and the light's flickering in the living room, you'd be like, wow, there's a problem with the electricity or the electrical system. I wonder how much that's going to cost. I wonder if it's this. You would call an electrician. But see, in our human brains, we need to see the proof before we start paying attention, which is why spirit, there's illnesses, there's, you know, loss of jobs, there's loss of loved ones, there's divorce, there's all, you know, it's different mechanisms that are like, hey, time to wake up, time to wake up.
Interesting.
And so, but that is what's happening. So if you're flickering, gotta calm down. Everybody does. If you're on this planet, you have emotional wounds, or you wouldn't be here. And calm that down. And once I'm able to calm it down, takes different times, you know, then all of a sudden, oh, okay. Then they start, basically what's not light, because I'm sending light through, it's like, then I can begin to see, oh, there's density here, there's density here, there's density here. Like I tell people, don't tell me anything, because I want to be shown what the agenda is, because spirit has one. And then I can see, and then I ask, what's that? What is that about? You know, and then I get all this information and history from spirit about, so that's where, you know, the other, I guess, psychic medium stuff comes in. I mean, there's many different, it's medical, intuitive, energy medicine.
Yeah, on your webpage, it was like, oh yeah, there's a lot here.
Yeah. So it's like whatever tool I need to use, I have available to me in any given thing. But, you know, it's easier to ask people to start moving into faith when source comes through spirit, or people on loved ones on the other side, and they're giving me information. There's no way I'd know.
And then the person that's receiving it has no doubt.
Right. Yeah. And it helps them. Yeah. And it helps pull, like, hey, how, you know, they're like, wow, you know, like then the notion of I'm not alone, that is because it's undeniable. Right.
Yeah.
And then they have trust and faith that there is healing that they need to do. And then once people begin that healing, because you're bringing faith along and you're connected, you've got to connect to source for this, you know, trip. And then you start caring more about your life once you start healing. When that stuff starts leaving your space, you know, I don't only work with really sick people. I have tons of people come to me just for, I mean, I guess it could be called coaching. I've never referred to it as that, but like, you know, to check in into this job or this guy or this whatever, once we're past the other stuff. But then they care about their life. And when you start caring about your life and understanding you're here for a reason, every single thing you've ever gone through is on purpose. Everything that has ever happened with you, even horrible stuff, and that's really hard for people. It's like when you start realizing, wow, I made it through a lot. I must be really, incredible. And why am I here?
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I love that. The pain to purpose idea is like, if we all realize that our pain is a gift and we turn it into serving others and using it as a way to spread more a higher consciousness across the planet. I fall in love with people like that. Like, I so believe we're not here to get stuff, that we're here to have experiences so that we can give.
Yeah.
And that I have often thought about, I'm like, I'll work myself to the bone. I have no problem with work ethic, but I have had times that I've worked so hard and I get to the end of a day, I put my head on the table, on my pillow, and I think, what was the purpose of today? Like, was today just to get things? Like, I'm not into getting things. I'm into changing lives. And I think, how great would the planet be if we all had a bigger vision for ourselves?
Well, and I mean, gosh, there's just so much to say, but it's like, if you saw me, like back in December, Aaron interviewed me for the first time, and this is before the pandemic. And I said in that interview, we're all about to get upended, because
I was going to ask you, tell me what you think of the moment right now.
Well, this is hard, but it's like, we're not paying attention, not enough of us, right? So of course, there's lots of us vibrating a lot higher, but the general vibration is a low vibration, because we are running around thinking fancy cars and this is why we're here, and look at blah, blah, blah. I mean, you look on social media, right?
Yep.
Like all the posting.
Everybody's highlight reel.
Yep. Yeah. And so, but what I know is, being in service, like to other people, again, is I'm going back to the truth, which is, we sign up for a purpose for, if you want to call it, selfish reasons, because everything, purpose and healing our wounds, is bringing us home. Like, it's bringing us back to our own connection with our highest level consciousness. And that's where, you might think, okay, well, there's people that are, their gift is healers. And I want to talk about that for a second, because I'm really, last week was quite a theme around this, getting healing quick stuff, and that everybody can run around and do it, because that isn't the truth. Not what I have been taught. Because it's purpose, it's life purpose. Not everyone has that purpose, but something else. But go ahead, you were about to say
something. No, what I was thinking as you were talking is, then when somebody, in the most simple sense, when somebody has a chronic situation that's not going away, is it plausible to say that maybe they haven't found their purpose, like they're off course, and there's an energetic block because they are not living their life in accordance with their purpose?
Yeah, so yeah, that's what I was saying there when I got off track for a second, which is, we come in with this, right? And we make an agreement before God, non-denominational, and our peeps, and on our own behalf. Like, coming in and taking a body is a courageous thing to do, right? Because we're connected to, source. They're not in bodies, we are. So they're here to serve us on this journey, because we're the ones that said, all right, I'll take on a whole bunch of wounds, or some, or whatever. For me, I filled my basket, because I was like, let's roll.
Yeah, let's take them all at once.
Let's go, because I like people to understand that are having a really, really hard time, is that, like, it's almost like the harder of a time you're having, the bigger badass you are, because when you are connected to your highest level self and up there with source and deciding what wounds you want. And Spirit gave me this hilarious, cute analogy. It's like a little Red Riding Hood basket or something. What's unhealed stays in there. So, I mean, you can, but you don't get to take a jar, and it's like they're in jars, and you want to you can't take one and put it back and be like, I wasn't into that one,
Oh,
I don't like
you
that
pre-decide.
Yeah.
You put the jars ahead of time.
Yeah, so whatever is unhealed from the last time's there, but like for me, I just was like, let's go.
Put them all in.
A great a easy way to explain this is like one of my wounds is abandonment. So I'm there and I'm like, well, I'm gonna heal this along with the other 100 things, and then. But in order to heal, the wound has to be created. If I'm going to heal something, there has to be a wound there to heal. So the spirit, the soul on the other side, who's not yet called my birth mother, says, in order to be in service to your soul and your transcendence, I will come in and abandon you. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, because that's going to create some hardship for you. Thank you so much. Like, you're going to be wounding yourself along with whatever else you chose to heal. But that's a big one, right?
That's
huge. Yeah. But I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you. Because I know that when I heal it, before I'm in my human body, when I heal that wound, I'm transcending, which is I'm coming close to remembering who I am.
Interesting.
Right? And so we come in, and then Spirit's like, my guides are like, by the way, I'm just going to remind you, that you're going to forget all this. And you're going to be pissed. And hurt and flailing and making bad decisions and then probably having more, and whatever. But we will wake you up when it's time. Yeah. And this is an answer to, a segue to your question about this pandemic. So, and I say, all right, I'm ready to go. And then I'm like in collaboration with, God and my guides, and I agree to this beautiful life purpose. It's not like, here, this is what you're going to do. It's like, yes, please. Right. So we come in and we want to keep our word with ourselves. It has nothing to do with, we're nothing but supported by Spirit and God. There's no judgment. There's no, demerits or something if you don't heal what you said, because it just means we're not going to transcend as much as we had intended, right? That's all. Yeah. And if we don't live so we want, source, Spirit knows we want to keep our word with ourselves. We don't understand it, but we do.
So would a good way to look at a problem that shows up in your life, in the most simplistic sense, is like, this is here for me. Yep. And I'm here to learn something from this problem. Yep. And if I go within and I'm quiet and I listen to whatever my belief system is, and that the answer will reveal itself. Yeah. As opposed to what I want to do is make it go away as fast as I can.
And that's where we get into problems, right? Because this is where faith is. Everything begins with faith. This is why I don't know if I call it a platform or whatever. It's my purpose here, and my mission here is to connect people to faith. That doesn't mean once you connect to faith, you're a healer. It just means you're connected to your peeps. Yeah. We all have them, and that's the whole. If you can connect to your peeps who are in service, just ask, what's this about? You don't. But when all these different beliefs come in and things that we've read or things that we, like even now, like I'm not trying to make you believe anything other than what I know to be available and true. And that relationship is so personal that you're not going to have the same relationship I have with my peeps. They talk to me, they communicate with me in a specific way. I mean, they swear a lot, like
Oh, they're my kind of people.
Yeah, no, they're hilarious. And so is God. Like we take things so seriously.
Oh, we do.
Oh my God. And so instead of like, and this isn't a judgment, but along those lines, we make things too hard. So it's like, I must put this problem in my belief system. It's like, it's not a Play-Doh factory. That's what they just showed me of this image. Because they're downloading, right? It's like, you don't take your problem and here's your beliefs, or here's what you've been taught, and you put your problem in there, and then you mush it, and you expect to have this outcome, and you're like obsessed and focused on the process of doing this. And guess what? The solution goes like this.
Yeah, it's a great visual. It's a great visual. I was thinking as you were talking that the first couple of weeks of the pandemic, I walked around going, holy cow, I've spent 24 years trying to wake people up about their health. And it took a world virus to stop everybody and say, oh shit, my health. Like, I was like, I don't want to say it was giddy, but I was like,
yeah, I get it.
Hallelujah, people. And it's my biggest concern is that we'll go asleep as we come out of this. But I'm like, take that fear and realize that it was a wake-up call to the lack of power you feel about your own healing. And I just was in awe for like the first month. I was like, and I still am. It makes me nervous as we come out because I'm like, oh my God, there's still an opportunity here. Like, I so hope like the vaccine doesn't ever appear, because then it'll keep forcing us to look within and look within.
Well, the dangerous thing about what's there, what you just said, is that because there's still the emotional wounds are still running the people in big pharma, and I'm not making a, but also in Washington and everything else. I mean, there's now an opportunity because people, inciting fear is purposeful, which is all that's happening and has been happening since, we have a pandemic. How'd that happen? Come on.
Right.
And so incite fear, because when we're in fear, we can't be in faith, and the larger, the lower vibrations, I should say, the lower vibrations who don't give a shit about humanity or people healing or any of those things. Like, the more people are listening to everything they hear because they're terrified. I need you to tell me what to think. I need to know what's happening.
Yeah.
When we start sitting back and being like, all right, this is a real hairy situation. What can I do? What do I need to heal in order to raise the vibration on the entire planet? But you see what people spend most of their time doing is, get in the house, you're being an asshole,
and they start pointing fingers. Like, enough of that. I'm so over that. It's driving me crazy. Yeah.
And that's exactly the minute I was like, they're not getting it.
Yeah, no, because you're stuck in the problem. You haven't elevated above it. So,
well, and you're having judgment about other people. You're like, because my first thing which I said back in December is like, my concern is suicide for people, not only because I know I was 24 hours from it, but because I understand the work that I do. Man, we have a really hard time sitting in our wounds because people think that makes you a bad person.
Yep.
To have wounds, even anxiety. People think, especially women, that it's a mental illness having anxiety. So then they don't
talk about
anything to calm it down, and then you end up sick. But people, instead of coming within and asking, like, I'm going to take this opportunity while I'm locked in my house to spend every single day like it's my job to get with my peeps, to just have faith until I really do have it. I'm going to try this on, because whether you believe it or not, it's still the truth. I watch people heal every day via this work.
Yeah. There was something in your, I think you called it a path to purpose was
Yeah.
on your website. And you said when you hit a point where you were like, I had nothing. And so the only thing I had was faith. And when I read that, I thought, well, how do we all have like turn to faith over and over and over again when we don't need to hit rock bottom.
No.
We could just use that, your lesson.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of other people have used that tool. It's just like keep turning to faith and keep turning to faith. So, and I think this moment is so important for us. I love that visual of like lock yourself inside your house. Maybe the mask, you know, I've got a lot of friends that are really upset about the mask. And I'm like, maybe the mask is just a signal of let's all just be quiet and go inner. That's a
like, I mean, it's a great analogy because people cannot, and it's not a judgment because I have nothing but compassion for all of it. I understand it. Hey, this is why I happen to be a soul who had to go through this, to be stripped of everything. And I know that isn't everyone's path. It's unnecessary at this point, unless you're not paying attention. But there's nothing I haven't been through. There's nothing I don't understand. There's no, that's why they can communicate with me so easily, because the emotion they put in my body, I'm like, oh yeah, that's that. Oh yeah, that's a deep sense of loneliness. So that's a deep sense of lack of love, or, it's easy. So I also know that, our egos won't allow us to sit in the pain, or the pain itself won't let us sit in the pain. But if you know that you're being divinely guided, if you have faith, not believe it, but know it, two different things. Well, I believe in that, but do you know it, right? Like, do you know, like unwavering knowing? You can get through anything, and it's so easy. It's not some big, thing we have to do other than, or any special teaching outside of, hey guys, what did I say I would do? I've had enough of this. Guide me, take me straight through the pain to the other side of it, and I'm going to pay attention. Please walk with me. Please bring me through it. And guess what? It goes a lot quicker that way.
Amazing. I love that.
It's unbelievable how true that is.
So I had a really interesting experience that I thought, well, you might be the right person to bounce off of this. I had a near-death experience, and when my kids were little, so it was even more like traumatizing when it came out of it. But the reason I share it with you is that the circumstances, I was down in Mexico, and I swam into a pile of Portuguese man-o-war. Oh, wow. And there was several of them. They wrapped themselves around me, and it took about 10, 20 minutes to get them all off of me by the time they had put tons of poison into me. And my throat started to close. Oh, wow. And anyways, long story short, when you're filled with that much poison, the hours that go by get worse and worse and worse and worse. So I was in Mexico in a hospital. There was a lot of fear. Bottom of the line is that I ended up feeling like I'm done. I'm out. Like I'm slipping. And what happened was that I had this moment, and I've done some research on it since then, that I literally, like a movie, had every thought, every action, everything I've ever done in my life was revealed to me on like a tunnel, like sides of a tunnel. And it's hard for us to think about it, but I literally had every thought I had ever thought in my entire life. And then I got to the end of the tunnel, and there was a white light, and sitting in front of the tunnel was my husband and 2 kids. And there was this thought in my head, like, wake the fuck up and stay alive for those 3. Yeah. And I did. But I'm curious, I've never been able to figure out, I've read some Tibetan teachings, and like, what is that?
What do you want to figure out?
How does the mind, how can you think every thought that you've ever had in your entire life? How did that happen to my educated, like?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Like, I can't recall every thought right now.
No, and it's beautiful, because everything that we were just talking about, see how I said spirit holds every emotion, every experience, everything on our behalf, because we get amnesia. It's not that it's not there. there because we're like, we're everywhere. We're energy bodies. Like this is how, I guess they want me to explain it this way, is like, this is how I can, like, and there's a point to this, like, these parents came in person the other day, the dad and the stepmom, and his 24-year-old daughter had been in the hospital for 4 weeks, and they couldn't figure out, she has autoimmune, but she swelled up, or she got an aneurysm, she has a huge thing. This is recent. Her tongue started getting sores and everywhere and bleeding, and they couldn't figure out what is going on. So with spirit, her guides, the daughter's guides, showed up in my session with the parents, because she can. I mean, she's just like you can, I can, like, so her highest level self showed up because she was giving me permission, and she came into the space and first explained a lot of stuff to her dad about her childhood, because she's a kind of a trouble, she's been struggling for a couple of years. Her self-care is horrible. Like, there's this whole thing. So she was explaining some stuff to him because they got divorced when she was 7. So there's all these things, and he was thinking this, and she explained to him, no, it's that. Like, she had this beautiful conversation with him that she couldn't, in her human experience, didn't have the courage to have for whatever reason. So she came through from that higher, the other dimension, and had a conversation with him, and he asked her questions and she answered back. And I also was able to tune into her energy body right where I'm sitting. She's in the hospital, and pull the toxins off her tongue, the scabby stuff, blast her through her body with energy, because she was so swollen. They were, it was hurting all her organs. I mean, it was one thing after another. So they kept, steroids and this, and, so she wasn't able to talk in the 4 weeks. She couldn't barely move. She wasn't doing anything. Within 12 hours, no joke, because I was talking to her, and there were things I was clear I wasn't supposed to say out loud. It's just fascinating. It's so an understanding. So there were things she was telling me that I was clear it was for my ears only. And at 4:20 in the morning, they came here around 5 o'clock. At 4:20 in the morning, they woke up to a text from her that said, can you order me a book called Breathe? This is a kid who has been struggling, horrible depression, She FaceTimed them and spoke to them.
Wow.
At 6 in the morning, because they were like, she's coming, she might as well be in a coma. I mean, she's got a huge thing. They didn't know if she was going to even live. Wow. And she was in this decision crossroads, which is what happened for you. You came to a true crossroads, and your soul made the decision to stay. That's all.
Yep.
But first you reviewed everything, and then you saw your kids and your husband, and you decided to come back into your body. That we're capable of doing that. Just like had you decided to leave, that would have been part of your journey. You were just like, hey, but I still feel like I'm done here, so I'm going to go.
Interesting. Yeah, and it really opened my eyes to whatever I'm not seeing in this world. There's something else going on that I'm not seeing, because as I tell people, and I actually don't tell a lot of people, I've never told it on a public platform, so now a lot of people are going to know, but
it's time.
Yeah, I know I sound crazy. Like, I ended up like doing research of like other people with near-death experiences, just trying to understand like what was it that I saw. And I like the way you say that, because it was just access to some information that I'm not necessarily getting here in my human body on a day-to-day basis.
And that's beautiful, because that is the block, and that's where I know the part of my mission is to take you from that place to the knowing that you're connected to source. They're right here. They're here to be in service to you while you're in service here on the planet. That's how it works. And that when you, because that level of consciousness is available, you just touched it. You just went into it, you see? So it's not gone. It's just that in our human brain, and someone like you're a thinker, and educate, you want to educate yourself. But the craziest thing is, all the information's already available. You just have to ask, and the breathing exercise, I don't know if you saw, but Spirit taught me this, breathing the light, because our energy bodies, our light bodies need light as much, if not more, than our bodies need oxygen. That's for our physical body. We need to breathe. I'll send it to you if you didn't see it.
No, I didn't. That one didn't come across my research.
Yeah, it's an amazing tool for everybody. It doesn't matter because you're an energy body. It doesn't matter who you are. But there's a lot of nurses now who play that, charge nurses who play it for all their nurses before they go into a shift, because it's very grounding. It's balancing masculine, feminine, and then it's just saying, who can I help and how can I help them?
Interesting. I love it.
Yeah, when you ask that question from your heart, from your soul, how can I help? Please show me. Not like, I'm going to do this. I mean, I start every one of my days, who can I help and how can I help them? Thank you so much, for such a beautiful, guiding me into such a beautiful purpose. There's no feeling like this.
I love that.
This just came up, if you don't mind, because you had said something a while ago about, well, I hear that everybody has the ability to do this. And what I understand, because there's a lot of, this market's getting all saturated now, right? And I'm noticing, and I don't want to really say any names, but I'm noticing there's some kind of, heal quick things going on out there. Magnets are one of them, and stuff.
Yep.
And these people have a huge platform, and part of me feels concerned, because what I understand is our whole journey through being pulled into faith, and then choosing to heal our wounds, and the process and the path of healing those wounds in collaboration with our guides and God, is all part of the transcendence. We have to have that it is a beautiful experience. So if we just take a magnet and it's gone,
the experience is
gone. That does nothing to connect us to source. Nothing. So you'll just, even if that were true, because I feel like, hey, okay, I'm going to think of it. I'm going to give it some, maybe a placebo effect, or maybe it's whatever, but it can't be lasting, because I know what it takes to heal, and I know the purpose of the whole process is to reconnect us to our guides and God, so that we walk in that, so that every decision we make, every life experience we have, even if it's like, oh, that kind of hurt, or that's kind of uncomfortable, or I was hoping it would go this way or that way, be like, okay, I'm gonna sit back, because if you don't sit back and just trust that, this is on my behalf, something else is meant to show up. But it's, I have a friend who the analogy was like, she stands at one door and rattles the doorknob like this forever. That's what spirit's like, get your hand off the doorknob. Yep. There's like 10 other doors up and down this hallway.
It's such a good analogy. That's me. That's
I know.
It's like rattling at the, it's like, no, but I want this door.
Yes.
This is the one I've chosen.
But you're not supposed to open that door.
Yeah.
But there's and I know I picked up on that when we first got on, which is fun, and a lot of people, really driven people, because this friend owns, is the CEO of Hollow Blue Nurses. Yeah.
Interesting.
And this was before she got her app and her business. Like, she came to me because she was having she had invested all of her savings and pulled in all of these investors, and she couldn't, wasn't getting off the ground. And this is about 3 months before the pandemic. And she came to me, what is going on? What's the block here? She wasn't sick, but she has anxiety that's, because of you're so driven. It's like, there's that.
Yep.
You guys, it's the same. So that's when Spirit told her, I saw this long, dimly lit hallway, because I'm shown very clear images. And I saw her all the way down at the end of the hallway, the last door on the right. So she had all these doors on this side and like probably 20 doors on, and she literally had both her hands and like, just furious and sweating. And it was, they said, physically envision, take your hand off the doorknob and step into the middle of the hall, put your back to that wall and look at all these other options.
I love that. I feel like everybody needs a session with you.
Yeah.
Do people say that?
Awesome. No, I mean, this is my I want people to feel the ease that is understanding that things can be a lot easier, and that if we connect, it isn't crazy California stuff. It's the truth.
Yeah.
It is just the truth.
Do you ever go back and in awe of the fact that you didn't take your life? Like, do you ever go, oh yeah, I'm so grateful, 24 hours from taking your own life, and then you have this beautiful life that's emerged?
Yeah, I am always in awe of it. Always in awe. I'm in awe of, back to the ayahuasca thing, because we have so many fun things to talk about. But with ayahuasca, for me, I went into it like I go, bring it. Like, whatever it is I need to heal, let's roll. And then that's what happened for me, is I had 8 hours of I was re-experiencing a lot of childhood trauma, but I was able to redo it. I was able to make a different choice within that. But I spent the night, long story short, re-experiencing these things, but then empowering myself in them. And that's when I was told I was a healer. I had this crazy thing happen, which is a longer story. But at the end, the sun started coming up, and this was in Ojai, so it was incredibly beautiful.
Ojai, so beautiful.
And I had spent pretty much the night out in this playground. It was a beautiful home, private home. I was out there re-experiencing all kinds of stuff, but the sun started coming up, and I was, I was lucid and everything, and I was sitting there and I was looking up, and I was kept looking up, and I was looking at my hands, but I wasn't, tripping out, and I was just looking at my hands, and the shaman came and sat next to me, and I was like, are these mine? And he said, yeah. And I was like, are you sure? He's like, yeah. And I said, so I'm alive? Because I had just witnessed a lot of pretty hard stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yeah, you are. And I went, why? And he went, that's a good question.
Interesting.
And from that moment, I was like, all of a sudden, for the first time in my life, I was all puffed up and I'm like, yeah, I'm brilliant. And that's a good thing. I'm this and that's a good thing. I'm that. Because I was kind of undoing my mom's, accidental programming, right? Throughout the night too. But I was like, yeah, if that kid made it to this day, there's a reason.
Yeah. And that's what I think, that was my gift of my near death, as I like walked around for like 2 weeks, like, whoa, like
Yeah.
I almost didn't see this. Like I almost didn't get to experience
That's
this.
so cool.
I remember like prior to that, my son was in T-ball and we used to sit it there and like, oh, this is so boring. Like there's nothing worse than like long T-ball games, right? And
without a flask.
Oh God, it's just so boring. All you could do is sit and like admire your child, right?
Yeah.
So I remember after that being like, oh, but you're sitting here. You get to see this. You almost didn't get to see this. And then that sort of changed as time went on. But the fact that I stayed alive did not change. And knowing that I had a purpose, that there was a reason I stayed alive. And I've continued to ask myself what that reason is. But the reason I bring it up in the context of what you're saying is I without having to go through the near death experience, I would want that wake up moment for everybody to see that they're here for a reason and that they're not here to get things or to achieve, like, so I just feel like we need a different perspective on life, and your teachings could do that for people.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I mean, this is something that, Aaron's, this is why Aaron, because there's so many people that have this massive platform that because, there's and it goes the way it goes. But Aaron's like, dude, how did not everyone know about you?
I feel the same way.
I'm like, I'm doing my best because I know that it changes your life, and that it's not me. It's like, I'm just, I feel like I have near death experiences every day because, and I believe that this is that you can, and like for you, right, is like, hey, let's get you doing the breathing thing. Create an altar, which your brilliant, educated mind might have a little too, but do that. Light a candle for yourself and sit there and just start saying, all right, I know I've met you guys once before, at least. Can you show me how to connect with you and guide me? Because even the brilliant work you're already doing on the planet, you're ready to pull in some other pieces of that, that's what I'm understanding. And you're not gonna be able to read about that somewhere.
You know me well. Strangely.
I think I'm going to record this part of the conversation, and it's going to be like your ringtone that I bring up occasionally. Yeah, I'm going to be like, hey, you're pulling the door. If you could just like release that door, that would be fabulous.
Here, and then here's her meme.
Yeah, right? Yes. Oh my gosh, we need to make this.
I know, it's totally true. I was thinking, like, as you were talking, I'm like, God damn, does she know? And then I've been waiting for Jessica to pop in. I'm like, Jessica is dying on the other side.
I am. Because this is you. That door didn't open. Okay, I'm going to take one more step and try to open this door. That one's not opening.
Like, why can't I open all 10 doors?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But you're like, they all have a different combination, like, no, they're all open, they're all like openable, but like you want to make sure that, hey, you can kick one open, you're like, oh, it's not in here. Yeah. But it doesn't have to, if that's the biggest thing, is if you find yourself like rattling a door, be like, oh, okay, I got it.
Yep. Yeah.
You literally like, okay, all right, I heard you. It's literally how I am in my life every day. And I get to have those near-death experiences other people's near death. I mean, gosh, I never thought of it this way, but that's how they're saying in this moment. It's like, yeah, that is true. I'm agreeing with them. It's like, I'm watching the same stuff, similar stuff that you experience in your near death experience, which is because I need to understand what it is that person needs. So I'm given all that information. I'm shown it. I feel the pain in my body. I have emotions, whatever it is. That's how they taught me acupuncture. I was like, ow, God, what the? I literally was like, oh my gosh, is this a point? Or is this a point?
Amazing.
And so, but you can do that. Anyone can do that if they just start collaborating with the people, like peeps, who are surrounding you. They said they would, and we want to keep our word with ourselves. That's all we should care about, because then everything else unfolds the way that it's supposed to.
Yeah. I love that. This has been you've given me a gift. And the other thing I just want to point out, now you're like connecting dots for me, is the other thing that came out of that near death is that all those thoughts I had, all the experiences I had, now I was in my early 30s at the time, and I'm 50 now, and I had no regret. In seeing my life viewed back to me, there was no regret, there was no shame, there was actually no negative emotion. It was all like, these are just experiences and thoughts you had. Beautiful. And there was not a negative feeling. It was more pride and happiness, and I've lived this incredible life. And I'm wondering if we take on the negative shame feeling is more of a worldly, like what we see here in the world, but that in the spiritual world, that doesn't exist. Does that make sense?
Yeah, or shame just wasn't your chosen wound.
It could be too, maybe.
I mean, but this hurriedness thing, this, that you have that drives you, it's just what I'm seeing is like, that's from something. Like that came from
I chose that.
Yeah. So, well, there's probably a wound attached to that, right?
Yeah.
That made you think that that's what you had to do in order to, and then also your, the level of concern that you have for other people in a more emergent way. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's very different because there's something attached to that too. But it's
okay. Well, I need a session
with
you.
Let's do it.
We're gonna get it. Yeah, I have so many more thoughts. And so how do people find you? And I think more importantly, like as you were talking, I've got a checklist of patients that I'm going to actually reach out to after this.
That would be amazing.
And just say, hey, here's another level we need to go with. I'm such a fan of collaboration when we go into a healing state with people. But how do people find you? I want to open it up so people understand you don't have to have a physical condition to sit with you. And you sit with all different people, right?
All different people. And I do, my clinic, right now I have a clinic in Garden Grove, but right before the pandemic, there were some doctors that were having me come and see people in their clinic. I used to fly to Vegas to work with a doctor. But I do Zoom, Skype, phone. It doesn't need to be FaceTime. I just, I do them all over the world, literally. Or in my clinic now, I'm opening up again. But I love collaborating with people like you or doctors, because it's like, hey, if I see density there, I like to, hey, can we get an ultrasound or can we get an MRI?
Oh, it would be so interesting.
Yeah.
Some of my more difficult cases that you're like, what's the healing block? Like, I hope they're open to this, because I just feel like that is a missing piece.
Have you, one last thing, have you seen the little girl with brain cancer who had lost her sight, who's now seeing?
No, that you worked with?
Yeah, I'll send you some stuff.
Okay. Yeah, and send me the breathing exercise, and we'll make sure our community gets it as well.
Okay. Should I email the link?
Yeah, send everything to Jessica.
Okay.
I'm pretty much worthless beyond like this. So thank God for Jessica.
So it's Bobbi Vogel, Bobbi, V as in Victor, O, G as in George, EL, BobbiVogel.com.
Great.
Or I also have the YouTube, Etheric Medicine, Bobbi Vogel. And then Instagram, Bobbi Vogel.Etheric Medicine. So I love, there's a lot of videos on that, and I have fun interacting with people on Instagram and putting up my messages and stuff like that.